And the Wall Street Journal now reporting another major company that Michael Cohen tried to score a big contract with in exchange for inside information about the Trump administration. According to the Journal, special counsel Robert Mueller learned about this in his investigation. Let's get some more on this. Peter Nicholas is the person who broke this story. He's out front with me right now. Peter, what else can you tell us about this outreach between Cohen to Ford Motor Company?
Well, we know that Michael Cohen was successful in getting some companies to use him for consulting services. This is an instance where he approached a company in January 2017, not long after President Trump won the election, and basically touted his proximity to the president, wanted to see informally if he could do some work for Ford, and was rebuffed. Ford decided that they didn't need these services and turned him down. What's interesting about this is although there was no work done and there was no deal was consummated, special counsel Robert Mueller still got very interested in it and asked to interview a Ford official who was talking to Michael Cohen about it and sought emails and other records. So this became part of Mueller's broad investigation into Michael Cohen and Trump.
Peter, any insight into why Robert Mueller is interested in this between Michael Cohen and Ford?
Well, we know that Mueller has been looking into Michael Cohen's company, Essential Consultants.
Right.
Last year, for example, Mueller's office has sought information from the pharmaceutical company Novartis and also from AT&T dealing with payments that they made to Essential Consultants. So they're looking at this company, looking at Michael Cohen's involvement in it. They're investigating whether Michael Cohen might have committed any bank fraud or other crimes, according to people familiar with this. So it's all part of the broader investigation into Michael Cohen and Essential Consultants and how that company was used as a vehicle to receive some of these payments.
Peter, thank you so much. I really appreciate you jumping on the phone. Peter Nicholas for us, who broke the story for the Wall Street Journal. Thank you again. Let's discuss this right now. CNN national political reporter MJ Lee is here, along with former assistant U.S. attorney for the Southern District of New York, Harry Sandick, and former federal prosecutor Renato Mariotti is here as well. Harry, let me get your take on this. Why do you think this seems different than what we've seen before? Why do you think that Robert Mueller is interested in this outreach between Cohen and Ford Motor Company?
Well, it seems as if he's looking into whether Cohen was essentially trying to peddle his relationship with the president, sometimes successfully getting a contract, but also unsuccessfully. If you're looking at a scheme to defraud, even unsuccessful efforts can be relevant to the investigation because you want to show intent of the person who's involved. You want to show that something happened repeatedly, even if it wasn't always successful.
And Renato, it also raises the question, because a lot of the conversation kind of leading up to this was that this is influence peddling. This is what you see in Washington. It's not illegal, though it might be unsavory, if you will. Any suggestion now that the fact that Mueller's looking into it, you think that he believes there's something improperly done here?
Well, we already saw from the statements that Avenatti put out that Cohen may have made some false statements to the bank. I suspect that Mueller is trying to take a look at the representations he was making to all of these people to see if he was lying to them. You know, if you lie to somebody to get their money, that's fraud, and that it's very simple. So, you know, that is what I think Mueller is taking a look at, and he's obviously probably also trying to take a look and seeing what exactly Cohen promised. Did he promise specific things that he would do for them in the Trump administration, regarding the Trump administration in exchange for money? What exactly he promised? You know, there are circumstances in which it can be illegal if you make mistakes, and we know that Michael Cohen is not always the most careful person on earth. So.
MJ, Peter Nicholas mentioned this. You've got Ford now, you have AT&T, Novartis ahead of this. It just seems like the companies keep racking up that Michael Cohen either successfully or unsuccessfully reached out to you to get contracts offering up his insight into the Trump administration. I mean, any guess on how many companies there could be?
I mean, interesting that this is actually the first example of Cohen actually not being successful in trying to get a consulting contract with a big firm. As we have seen this week, companies like AT&T and Novartis, they're now showing remorse that they actually penned these deals in the first place. They basically said that was not wise of us. We should have vetted this person. With an example like Novartis, they actually came out and said this person was not suited to give us healthcare policy, and I think you and I would have expected that to be the answer in the first place. I will say on the topic of Robert Mueller and the fact that Mueller was interested in this specific communication, I think the challenge that we confront every day whenever we talk about the Mueller investigation is that, yes, it's always significant when we find out new information about what Mueller is interested in. But on the flip side of that, we also know that Mueller is casting such a wide net. You know, should it be surprising that he is interested in something about Michael Cohen, a man who has worked so closely with President Trump? It actually isn't. So what we don't know, and the conclusion we can't make, is whether Mueller actually was looking into these payments because there was something actually legally problematic, or if it was more that he was collecting information about Michael Cohen.
It's interesting, right? And this gets to kind of a question that lingers over all of this, Harry, which is, it's one thing if it kind of was swept up in casting a wide net, but do you see that this could, where does this land in the terms of what his purview is, which is the Russia investigation?
Well, that's harder to know. It may have something to do with the bank accounts that are involved. You may see money coming in or coming out. And if this is work being done for essential consultants, it may be that that bank account is one. They just want to know everything about it. It may also be that people have come forward at different points voluntarily to say, you know, I know you're investigating these issues. I'd like to tell you about something interesting that happened. So it's possible that that's how it came up rather than through a subpoena or some kind of demand for information.
Renato, does this surprise you at all? I mean, does this fit into a category that you think that Mueller is reaching in any regard?
No, not at all. Look, we already know that this bank account had money that was going into it from a firm that's connected to a Russian oligarch. So I think it makes sense, for Mueller to take a look at what Cohen was doing, see what kind of leverage he'd have over Cohen. We know that later on he referred a case to the Southern District of New York, to the Manhattan federal prosecutors. This may be part of that case. This could be the bank fraud that we've heard so much about.
MJ, when it comes to the companies who've spoken out and they said it was such a mistake, we haven't heard Michael Cohen. Michael Cohen hasn't really spoken out about this, right? He's disputed some of what Michael Avenatti has put out, but none of this.
No, and, you have to really keep in mind how much sort of legal hot water he is in right now. The payments aside, keep in mind that there is a whole separate criminal investigation that is separate from the Mueller investigation, as we were talking about. And as a part of that, when investigators went in and raided his home, raided his office, raided his hotel room, they took thousands of pages of records and documents, and we know for a fact that they are interested in his business transactions, especially his taxi medallions business, but they also took information about Stormy Daniels' case, for example, so they have a lot of information. So if I'm Michael Cohen, I'm not sleeping well at night because I don't know what information that investigators took could come back and bite me, right?
I would say so. Harry, put aside Robert Mueller for a second. Do you think this information, about Ford Motor Company or even AT&T and Novartis, do you think that is of interest to your former colleagues at SDNY?
It may well be, although we're at the point where, we don't know exactly what the dividing line is between the Southern District and the Mueller investigation. It seems likely that if they're both looking at Michael Cohen, there may be aspects of the investigation that go across the two offices, and then there may be aspects that are specific to the Southern District, such as whatever led Rod Rosenstein to send the case there.
Does this surprise you at all that this is coming out?
It doesn't surprise me. I think given the heat that some of the companies have taken for being in this arrangement, at this point, one might expect that people would like to get out front of the story and not be in the position where the first couple of disclosed businesses were, and to get it out and just sort of hope that it's a day two story and less people will pay attention, although we're all here talking about it now.
When it comes to Michael Cohen and Donald Trump and the Russia investigation and Robert Mueller, it's never a day two story, it seems.